new Pokémon Presents is coming July 22nd, and you might be wondering what's going to be revealed at this Pokémon Presents, other than a million mobile trailers and, of course, Pokémon Legends Z-A. Will there be any sort of surprise announcement? Today I'm going to give some of my predictions and wild theories as to what might be revealed. Now, last time I did a predictions video for the Pokemon Day Presents back in February, I made a bingo card with some pretty bold takes, and I think not a single one ended up coming true, which is sort of impressive in its own weird way. But we're gonna slightly switch things up. Instead of doing a bingo card, I'm gonna be doing a tier list. And all the way at the bottom, we're gonna do things that are probably going to be in the direct, but aren't necessarily the most exciting. Basically, all the mobile game announcements, because you know they're coming. They take up nearly half of every Pokemon presentation nowadays. And just to set the mood or tone, we're just gonna slot Pokemon Cafe Remix into snooze tier, because honestly, I don't actually know a single person who plays it, but there must be some people out there playing it, because there was a new trailer for it as recently as the last Pokemon Presents back in February. What happened to Magikarp Jump? That was the true banger Pokemon mobile game. Can we get that back instead of Cafe? It's not right starting off the video with all the snoozers though, so let's get into some more interesting things that I think actually have a pretty good likelihood of getting revealed. And first is this image that you might be a little confused. Well, this is actually the main character of a live-action Pokemon show called Poketsume that has Pokemon elements in it. Like you can see this girl's Game Boy is in almost every screenshot for every episode. And this came out in Japan, I believe, back in 2023, but recently got translated into English in certain regions, I believe mainly the Middle East and North Africa. It might not be the most exciting thing revealed, but because it just recently got an English release, I think they might do a worldwide release, maybe have a trailer for it. The last Pokemon Presents actually started with a trailer for the second season of Pokemon Concierge, the little stop-motion animated Netflix show that is coming in September. So actually we might get another trailer for Pokemon Concierge too. Maybe I shouldn't say no one cares, because I actually do care about this show. It's pretty cute, but in the whole grand scheme of Pokemon reveals, this wouldn't be the craziest one. But on the topic of Pokemon TV shows, there's one more contender that I think might go a little higher for me. For a while now, there's been rumors that Netflix is developing a live-action Pokemon show based on the iconic champion Red. Back in 2024, it was reportedly still in development, but yeah, this was almost a year ago now, and we haven't really heard anything else since. Pokemon live action has been kind of hit or miss. Of course, we had the Detective Pikachu movie, which I personally liked aesthetically, like the visuals in the Pokemon world I thought were really cool, but the story, yeah, it was... Honestly, this could go between B or D tier because it depends on like how the show actually is, but just it being announced would be pretty hype, I think. Probably not gonna happen, but would be cool if it did get announced. Would you guys be down for that? I'm actually curious because I feel like Pokemon fans were pretty divided on Detective Pikachu. So do you want another live action or them to do another attempt? We don't really need to talk much about the Pokemon mobile games. I think they all just easily slot into bottom tier. It's like they're guaranteed to be in the direct, but does anyone really want to see those? Actually, there is something interesting that could happen with Pokemon Go, and that is terrestrialization. With terrestrialization coming to Pokemon Champions, which we'll talk about in a little bit, I feel like adding it to Pokemon Go might make sense at this point. Since it's confirmed Pokemon Go will have connectivity with Pokemon Champions, actually I guess that could go up in the likely but who cares tier. And if anything, we should make a different tier that is just not happening. Because I have one specific mobile game that usually gets highlighted in these Pokemon Presents. In case you don't know, Pokemon Unite in China is vastly different from the version we have in the rest of the world. They have a whole city as the lobby, and they even have exclusive modes, including Pokemon Auto Chess / Teamfight Tactics Auto Battler mode that is really fun. I've actually tried it out on the Chinese version and had a lot of fun, and I just think it's not really fair that we haven't gotten it in the global release yet. So as far as getting the full Chinese version on global, I don't think it's gonna happen, but the Pokemon Teamfight Tactics-esque mode itself, I'm gonna put up on probably not, but would be cool. It'd be really cool, actually. Again, I had a lot of fun trying it out. I would say that actually has a pretty good shot of making it. I might even slot that up to S tier because I personally want it. And maybe we can make S tier like the things that I want really bad, but maybe won't happen. Kind of funny, Pokemon Unite ends up at both opposite sides of the tier list. Then the final mobile game is Pokemon TCG Pocket. Now this one has blown up in popularity, myself included. I've been sucked into the pack opening aspect at least. I don't actually play the game, but I love opening the packs and just praying for the gacha. You might notice though, I have Mega Lucario here as a stand-in for Mega Evolutions coming to TCG Pocket, since they're already confirmed to be coming back in Legends Z-A, and we're even getting a real-life Pokemon TCG set bringing back Mega Evolutions. I think it'd make a lot of sense that the next set for the Pocket version, the mobile app, to also incorporate Mega Evolutions. But again, it wouldn't be like the craziest announcement. It's not a who cares kind of deal, but I mean, that's just what we named the tier. So that slots right in the middle, as it is, in my opinion, pretty likely to get announced. I guess that's all the mobile games that you would expect to be in there, but there is one more Pokemon mobile game that was announced at the previous Presents, and that is, of course, Pokemon Champions. And this is definitely not a who cares territory, so I believe this is going to be our first one slotting into A tier, which I don't know what to call this one. Maybe we could just call it ZA. Not because it's exclusive to ZA News, but it's like guaranteed and will probably going to be what people are most looking forward to. Any news about the upcoming Pokemon Champions would be welcome, like exactly how the game will work. Is it going to be purely online? Will there be a single player is my biggest question, and that actually leads me to the next prediction that I'm going to be sliding up all the way into Pray to Arceus. Now, some of you might not be old enough to recognize what this image here is, but if you're around my age, you definitely recognize that as the Battle Frontier from Pokemon Emerald. And the reason why we're putting it on Pray to Arceus, because the Battle Frontier is something us older fans have been wanting in any Pokemon game for like the last 2 decades. But I actually think Pokemon Champions might be the closest, or I guess best shot we've ever had at a Battle Frontier type of comeback. I and many other fans see this as a spiritual successor to games like Pokemon Stadium and Pokemon Battle Revolution, which did feature some single-player modes. Like I remember the Gym Leader Tower from the OG Stadium. And with the game being called Pokemon Champions, you know, you think of the champions from the different games and being able to fight them. But how sick would it be if we got different modes? Not just Battle Tower, but you know, some of the Battle Frontier-esque modes, like the Battle Factory, I think it was called, where you have the rental Pokemon. Battle Frontier is definitely a bit of hopium, so we're keeping that on Pray to Arceus, but seeing Pokemon Champions at all during this Presents is almost a necessity at this point. Right up there alongside with ZA, which is why we're slotting it into that tier. But just so it makes sense, let's finally talk about Pokemon Legends Z-A. Now, there's 2 big things that I want to see from this trailer. The first being new Mega Evolutions. I think it is absolutely crazy they haven't shown us any yet. Although personally, I like this direction. I want to, I guess, be surprised when I actually play the game rather than know everything about it before playing. It's a tough thing to balance because I feel that a lot of people are still on the fence about this game, and what new Mega Evolutions they add could be a make it or break it, so I think this trailer should finally show us at least some of them. Personally, I think it'd be crazy if they show off a Mega that wasn't in the leaks, because then at that point, everything would be thrown out the window. Everyone would be like, what the heck, the leaks weren't real. The mystery and intrigue for this game would be absolutely back in full force, and I think it really needs that right now. But besides for new Mega Evolutions, one thing I think they are for sure going to focus on are returning characters. In particular, one mysterious lady that was actually sort of confirmed / revealed. In case you don't know, this is Emma from the Pokemon X and Y post-game. Alongside the release date, we also got the box art for the Switch and Switch 2 editions of the game, and the artwork featured on that box art, you can see the full version of here. Kind of interesting, they cropped Zygarde out of the box art when it's like literally his game, but then again, Pokemon Legends Arceus didn't have Arceus on the cover, so. But someone we definitely do see prominently front and center is this mysterious girl with a Mega Lucario here. A lot of people have covered this, so I'll just briefly recap. She's got sort of similar hair, although obviously she got a haircut. But most importantly, she is wearing what looks like the expansion suit. This was all in the post-game, so I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of you didn't even know about this character. But basically, she was Looker's apprentice, Looker being, you know, the international policeman. and he actually had an office in Lumiose City, which I believe is confirmed to still be on the new Lumiose map. But at the end of Pokemon X and Y, Looker actually gives the bureau over to Emma, so she's basically running that thing now. Though her using Mega Lucario is definitely interesting, especially because we don't see her iconic Esper anywhere in this scene. What happened to the Esper? I have to know. I think she still has an image of it on her desk. So is Esper still around? I hope so. It'd be really sad if Esper's gone, but all this is just a complicated way to say that I think Emma is very likely to be in this next trailer. But I wouldn't be surprised to see other returning characters like Bonnie. I didn't even think about it, but she did have a very close relationship with Squishy the Zygarde in the X and Y anime. Now, usually the anime and game plots don't really cross over too much, but if there's any characters that are going to be reappearing, I think Bonnie is pretty likely just because her brother was the gym leader of Lumiose and the whole game is in Lumiose. But there's one more Legends Z-A reveal I would like to see, and this one is going straight up to Pray to Arceus tier because I don't think it's happening, but multiplayer would be absolutely huge. The reason I don't think it's very likely though is, of course, Pokemon Legends Arceus didn't have any online. Well, technically it had trading and the satchels, I guess, if you count that, but there wasn't really like multiplayer. You couldn't play or battle against other people. But with Legends Z-A introducing a whole new battling system, real-time battles for the first time in Pokemon main series history, not being able to play against friends, I feel is a bit of a missed opportunity. Granted, this could return in Gen 10 and then they'll have the online functionality, and that actually kind of makes sense if Pokemon Champions is going to take over as the definitive turn-based battling experience, that Gen 10 would keep the real-time battles. But I want to see it in ZA. I just think it would add so much more replayability and just make the game more fun, like there's more to do after you beat the story. 100% they're going to be showing Switch 2 gameplay during this Presents though, because of how much smoother it is, and also because they want to show people like, hey, if you buy a Switch 2, look at how much nicer the game is, versus if you play it on the friggin' PS2 hardware. I've already made a whole video about how I can't go back to playing Scarlet and Violet on the original Switch now after experiencing on Switch 2, and it sucks how it's basically a $500 upgrade for what many people have had access to for years now on emulators, but I feel that with Legends ZA, it's gonna hurt even more since it's an actually new game, and playing it without the full optimization, like, yeah, it's just a crappy situation. But speaking of the Scarlet and Violet glow up, one thing I saw a few people on Reddit bring up is the potential of Pokemon Legends Arceus getting the same treatment. And though I don't think it's very likely, it would be pretty awesome if we got 60 FPS and enhanced visuals. However, I don't think they're going to do it because they probably would have announced it already, or just shadow dropped it along with the Switch 2. Like a lot of Switch games just naturally run better on Switch 2, even if they don't have an exclusive patch. But Legends Arceus was not one of those. It basically looks and runs the same. The not happening tier is looking a little empty though, so I think it's finally time to burst the bubble for a lot of people. Because as much as I would love to be able to play classic Pokemon GBA games on my Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch 2, I absolutely do not see them coming to NSO for a couple of reasons that I've mentioned in previous videos, but mainly, you guys know it's about the money. Pokemon made so much off of reselling Red, Blue, Gold, Silver. I don't think they did Ruby, Sapphire actually, but you know, the first two generations were on the Nintendo 3DS eShop. I believe they were selling them for $10 a pop on Virtual Console, which is infinitely more lucrative for Pokemon specifically, not just Nintendo, than having it on NSO. And also compatibility, because you wouldn't be able to transfer those Pokemon from NSO version to like Pokemon Home, for example. I would bet that instead of NSO, we do eventually get a Pokemon collection. Actually, we might have to add another tier for this one. 30th anniversary tier, meaning reveals that they'll probably save for next year, because if you don't know, 2026 is going to be the 30th anniversary of Pokemon Red and Green releasing in Japan, which is insane that Pokemon is 3 decades old, and somehow I'm older. But anyway, this Pokemon Classic Collection, if it's happening, or Pokemon games coming to the eShop like Virtual Console titles, either one of those 100% would be saved for at least the 30th anniversary reveal, not this Pokemon Presents. And the same goes for Gen 10, because I know there's going to be some comments like, oh my god, they're going to reveal Gen 10. Why would they have a Pokemon Presents without a huge announcement planned? It's not going to be Gen 10 though. Definitely too early for Gen 10. Even though last Presents or last Pokemon Day, I was on the bandwagon of like Gen 10's gonna get revealed. But now, no, the bandwagon is gone. That thing is all the way in freaking Unova by now. I shouldn't even mention Unova because I don't even have Black and White 3 or Black and White remakes on here. That would absolutely be in the not happening tier. That said though, I've been huffing a little bit of hopium myself, and so we're gonna wrap up this video with what could be a potential surprise announcement during this Presents. Now, of course, between a live action show, all the mobile announcements, and Pokemon Champions and Z-A trailers, I think that is plenty enough for this Presents, and likely that's all that we're gonna get. But in the off chance, the slight sliver of hope that we do get a surprise new game or spin-off announced, I've whipped up some pretty cool contenders. And we're gonna start off with one that's already been confirmed, actually. Pokemon Colosseum and XD are already confirmed to be coming to the Nintendo Switch Online GameCube, which is exclusive to Switch 2. And that might even go to Z-A tier, because yeah, those are already confirmed. I guess the big news would be if they just shadow drop them during the Pokemon Presents, like these are available today, go play. Anyway, now let's actually talk about potential new spin-offs. And the first one, immediately going into not happening tier, is Pokemon Rodeo. A lot of you are gonna look at me like, what are you talking about? What, Pokemon Rodeo? This is an actual game that was being worked on at some point, but has since been canceled or entirely scrapped. What the actual gameplay of this would have been, I don't know. It seemed like it would have been like a Fortnite or Overwatch type of game where you're on the back of your Pokemon and fight other people. Honestly, it sounds pretty sick to me, at least more fun than a lot of the other mobile games they've put out. So I'm kind of sad that it got scrapped and would love to see it come back, but I don't think it's happening, especially now with Pokemon Champions being developed. That's enough on Pokemon's table. But a game that I think perhaps has the most chance of coming back is, of course, Mystery Dungeon. I feel this one is a bit not controversial, but there's a lot of contention. Like, Mystery Dungeon fans absolutely love these games, and literally every Direct or Presents want a new remake announced specifically for Explorers of Sky, because I guess that was like the best game in the series. I've never been able to really get into Mystery Dungeon games, but I did really like the remake of the first Mystery Dungeon that came out on Switch a couple years ago. I think it actually has a pretty good shot, at least compared to some of these other spin-offs I'm going to talk about next. We'll start with Pokken Tournament 2. I actually don't see a lot of people talking about Pokken, at least in my own comments, but over on Reddit, there was a recent thread of like what you're hoping to see at the Presents, and a lot of people were actually bringing up Pokken. I thought Pokken was good, but I don't know if it was really popular enough to get a sequel necessarily. The concept of the game was sick. I love that you actually play as your Pokemon as opposed to like Z-A where you're still the trainer controlling the Pokemon. And the graphics were amazing. Pokken might have the best like realistic art style Pokemon has ever had in any game. So if we're going just based off graphics, I would love to see a Pokken 2, but would I actually play it? So maybe that goes down to probably not, but would be cool, because I'm not necessarily praying for it myself, and I don't think there's that many people either. Now, if you've seen my last few predictions videos, you probably knew this one was coming. Maybe I'm just a sucker for real-time Pokemon battling, controlling your Pokemon yourself. So I am absolutely on the hype train and praying to not just Arceus, but all the other Poke Gods for a Pokepark 3. Honestly, I've only played it once, and it was like way later. I didn't play it as a kid or anything, so I don't have any nostalgia for this series, but whenever I do see the footage and when I tried it myself, it was pretty dang fun. So for that reason, I actually will commit to Pokepark all the way at top tier. Like, I think that would be pretty cool if we got a new one. But the remake I most want to see, especially now that the Nintendo Switch 2 has been announced, is Pokemon Ranger. This is maybe the most underrated Pokemon spin-off series. I mean, you could argue between this and Pokemon Conquest as like the least played but actually best games. It was on the Nintendo DS, and you actually use the stylus to circle around Pokemon in order to catch them. And this is something that could totally translate to the Nintendo Switch 2 with the mouse controls, where you draw circles on, your table. But really, they could have done this with motion controls as well. You know, you could just use the Joy-Con and draw circles in the air. So I don't know if they would commit to a motion control game, especially in 2025. The novelty of motion controls have definitely worn off, and I don't think they would commit to only being able to play with the mouse controls on Switch 2 either. I mean, you could just do circles with your analog stick. Like, they can just have the option in the game that you can do mouse, analog, or motion controls. Regardless how they do the controller setup, Pokemon Ranger remake or reboot or just a new Ranger game in general, I think would be very much welcome by the fans, or at least the older fans. If it was anything like Legends Arceus, you know, a breath of fresh air. Actually, a better comparison might be new Pokemon Snap, which was surprisingly a hit, considering how long it had been since the first game. But yeah, there was a lot of nostalgia for Pokemon Snap, probably a lot more than for Pokemon Ranger, I would imagine. Still, this is like my personal pick, right up there with Pokepark, as far as which spin-offs I would like to see them bring back. I'm not doing like a left to right thing, but if I was, Pokemon Ranger would go all the way up. And that is finally gonna do it. So let me know if I missed anything, any games that you would potentially like to see revealed at the upcoming Pokemon Presents. The only other one would be Pokemon Conquest. I really enjoyed and actually did play through that whole game. I just don't really see them bringing back Conquest unless it's like a crossover with, I don't know, Fire Emblem or something. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for the Pokemon Presents. I will of course be live reacting to it on July 22nd, which is still a little bit of ways, so there will be other videos coming before then. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet to stay tuned for any and all Pokemon news and breakdowns. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you then.